My apologies, I was muted. Bibi Foday, Race First Black Family. Welcome to another episode here at the School of Urban Philosophy, where we are always straight up, straightforward, and straight to the point, where we use information for the upliftment and the advancement of the Black race, the Black collective, the Black community. This is the task, this is the job, and this is the function. As always, I'm grateful for those of you who are joining me, who are tuning in to the Black Forum, which is a platform used to, I like to use the terminology, we want to agitate consciousness, because I'm in the mindset when I think and look at us as a people, I see that we are confronted with a crisis in consciousness. We have to address that. So hopefully tonight we will get into some of that. I do have my brother who should be joining me at some point, and he and I, we're just going to engage in a conversation. It's not an interview because I'm not an interviewer. I'm not an interviewer. That's not what I do, but I enjoy conversation. And my brother will be joining me so we can get into it. We can get into a deep discussion. But before that, let me touch on a few things. As always, make sure you share the video, like the video. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe to the channel. For those of you who are consistent in your viewership, I want you to know that I greatly appreciate you, your presence. Tonight is one of those nights, as always. I encourage you, send in your questions. Send in your questions, be a part of the discussion, be a part of the dialogue. Growth and development happens when we engage it. Growth and development happens when we engage it. That's very, very important. So keep that on the forefront of your minds as we proceed tonight to talk about Black consciousness, man. We want to talk about Black consciousness, what it is, where is that, what's going on with us as a people. Because oftentimes we can get caught up in the phase of, I like to call it the excessive over critiquing of us as a people, man, just over critiquing without offering any type of solutions or resolutions to what you perceive to be the problem. That's, for me, that's counter-revolutionary. It's extremely counter-revolutionary. Now, you can have a critique, but provide a solution. Bring forth a resolution. Be a part of solving this problem. So those of you who are here, can any of you tell me what did we discuss last week? I want to see where you at. What do you remember? What did we get into last week? So let me shout a few people out. Sisters Zenzi, you here. Ilewa is here. Ifa Binga, as always. Bibi Foday, Black family. Janisha, Bibi Foday. Excuse me, Ifa Bamala, Bibi Foday, Race First. The Indomitable, Craig Samuels, Bibi Foday. Becca Shakur, Bibi Foday, Race First. Glad you are joining us tonight. Glad you are joining us tonight. So yes, so who can tell me about last week before we dive in? I want to know who's been paying attention. Talk to me. Where my students at? Where my students at out there? Okay, that was Zenzi. She said lack of consciousness. Yeah, that was part of the discussion. What else? What else we touched on? Improper entertainment, political. Yes, that's we touched on that. Hold on for a second, Black fan. Let me try to find out where my brother at. He said he's here, but keep in mind I am pretty new to this mess. But usually it will show up. Let me see, man. Let me see. Yes, the improper entertainment is destroying us. You know, because we don't understand how political it is and how it actually it put us to sleep. It dulls the senses. And oftentimes we find ourselves caught up in this improper entertainment, the drama of the celebrities' lives, their blunders, their mishaps. And we're all over the place as a result of that. We're all over the place. Can't make it happen. We can't figure things out because of that. And we have to do better. We have to become very, very political in our approach. And one of the ways we're going to become political is we have to tighten up our consciousness. We have to sharpen the consciousness and sharpen it in such a way that we make our consciousness relative and make the consciousness connect to where we are at to be aware of what's happening. So like I put a post on Facebook today, which me and my brother going to get into once I figure out what's going on with this technical stuff. He says he's backstage, but I don't see him. He's not showing up on my end. But I won't be surprised, man. I don't put too much faith in these people's the technology. Oh, there you, my brother, go. There you go. You popped in. There we go. I'm bringing you on, my brother. I'm bringing you straight on. I'm bringing you straight in.
What's up?
What's up,
brother?
Oh, man. Peace and blessings. Ladies first, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm glad to be here, man. Peace.
Peace. Yeah, so I was just, about to talk to the people a little bit. And like I say, this is not an interview because I'm not an interviewer. This is a discussion. We're going to get into a dialogue. We're going to discuss. But I most definitely wanted to start off and build upon the post that I put on Facebook today. And we just go from there and we'll let the ancestor energy take us where we need to go in this dialogue. We'll go back and forth, just expounding, because one of the things that I'm pushing is raising consciousness. We gotta raise the consciousness of the people, and we have to get people to understand that we gotta make our consciousness deeper. We can look at all these different time periods in human history as it relates to us as a people, and we see movements, we see waves of movement, but those waves of movement is linked to consciousness. Those movements aren't just happening, so they're linked to consciousness. So that's where we at. So the post today is I put on Facebook. I said that, and I addressed it to, the nationalists, the Pan-Africanists, the Revolutionaries, the freedom fighters, the cultural nationalists, the Afrocentricist people. I try to catch the whole gamut of who we are and the titles we carry. But at the end of the day, my point is this. This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for us because the work that needs to be done, this allows for us to do that work more effectively because this was blatant. This was something real blatant And people now in an uproar, they complaining, they making all these things, but it's an opportunity for us to move consciousness and engage in political education. What you say to that?
I absolutely agree, man. Just like I said on the post today, brother. You know, it's the opportune time because it's on everybody's head. It's just like Black History Month in February. Everybody's thinking about Black history because that's the month we're supposed to think about it under this programming, right? So you got these national elections, and that's the time we're supposed to have discussions around political education.
Yeah.
So, you know, if elections is worth anything to us in the Black Nationalist Pan-Africanist movement, is worth the PE that we can have during that time. In fact, brother, myself and other brothers that's part of a group we call Jichola Kimbunga, basically a brotherhood that we formed to be the eyes of the whirlwind of the Pan-African Revolution. We've been keeping these African Survival Initiative roundtables. We do a presentation, then we chop it up on table points. The last 3 months, just leading up to the election, so we can give some political education to the people leading up to them making a decision to vote or not vote and which way they will vote. We just want to provide the information to the people. And, you know, like I said, man, it's an opportune time, especially now that we know, you know, how things transpired. We know exactly what we're looking at least for the next 4 years. We've seen it before, so we really should be locked in right now. We really should be trying to see how we can maximize some unity around specific agendas, man, because it don't stop because the election is over. Really, it's just started. This next 4 year season is starting right now. And what we need before the next 4 years, for the next election, is to have a strong national political organization on the ground in Black communities all across the United States of America with tentacles around the world. We don't have that, man. We're going to be. It's going to look a lot worse next time.
Yes, I agree. And speaking to that point, and so that's one of these things that I've been talking about, and I've been talking about redefining terms. A lot of terms that are utilized, we have to redefine the terms and create a revolutionary lexicon. And so what I've been doing, I might take a word and I'll redefine it by putting Black in front of it. So like one of those words is Black politics. So once we say Black politics, the Black in that sense, Black becomes an adjective for the noun politics, right?
Absolutely.
And so the Black on that noun describes the type of politics that we're talking about. So we're talking about a politic that speaks to the survival in the best interest of Black people that's specifically designed to push those peoples forward. And so to your point, I agree, we have to have some type of organized structure on the ground within the next 4 years. And I say it all the time, just because you revolutionize doesn't mean that you forego involving yourselves in other forms of struggle, right? You don't forego involving yourself in other forms of struggle. Now, we may be adept in certain areas, but when you fight, you use whatever weapon you can get your hand on. I remember growing up and fighting people, and then a person might get the best of somebody, and they may say, "Man, he got the best of me because he bit me," as if biting is not a part of fighting.
That's fighting.
You know what I'm saying? You know, you do what you have to do to prevent the other person from hurting you or harming you. And that's the mentality that we must take into this arena that we call the struggle. We do too much spectating and off-centered critiquing rather than thinking about the solution. So for me, it's Black politics. You know what I'm saying? A politic that speaks to the hardcore issues of us as a people and how we're going to move to go forward. And yes, we have to close ranks. And we got to close ranks. What makes closing ranks easier is when the consciousness is at the place where as though we understand it. Why the need to be together. Because oftentimes you can have two people in a situation, and they both can be in a dying situation and never realize that their survival is contingent upon them actually working together.
Exactly.
And just die.
Exactly. They be fighting each other.
Yes.
Exactly. You know, I think you touched on something very important when you say we have to control the language of the dialogue. You know, we have to reinvent terms, you know, redefine terms, because we live in a new moment. And when I say that, man, it's like it's beyond the United States.
Yes.
You know, I live here in Africa, and there's a lot happening in Africa that, you know, average brothers like yourself or sisters over there in the movement with some awareness have no idea of what's happening over here. So it's very difficult to kind of, you know, coordinate things in a way that it can benefit people on both sides. And so, you know, a lot of people in Africa look to us, particularly in the United States, to see how we're playing black politics, to use your language, right? They watch us to learn how to play politics locally out here. They see what we doing and say, well, look, you see what they doing in America? Why can't we do it out here? When they have Black Lives Matter in America, they start doing Nigeria Lives Matters, Sierra Leone Life Matters, Ghana they just kind of follow the political agenda of the black nation within the United States. And the demographics of that nation has changed so much that we have to sit down now and take new account for ourselves. We got to really canvass the communities and conduct our own census, so we know who is who and what is what in our neighborhoods and in our communities and our cities. Because if you do that, you realize that there's a larger African population, immigrant population, from the Caribbeans, from Central South America, as well as the continent, than what we typically are used to right now at this moment. And so even when we're saying black politics, you know, we're challenged for it to be inclusive at this moment. We're challenged as, you know, quote unquote, black Americans, right, to be inclusive of all the Africans that's showing up on those shores, regardless of where they're coming from, and come up with a political agenda that fits all of us. So it's like, you know, we're challenged. We have to. Just a few days ago, I had the opportunity to have to actually interview the Mali ambassador to the United States of America. The interview was coming soon. It'll be on Kimbunga Media. But just talking to that brother made it clear that black African descendant people in the United States, we're handicapped by not being able to have a state for ourselves. When Mali wants to build relationships with Jamaicans, they build it through the Jamaican government. When Mali wants to build a relationship with Puerto Rico, they build it through the Puerto Rican government. But with us, there's no clear point of reference. There's no clear go to this group, go to these individuals. These are the leaders of the community. These are the national leaders of this struggle. Like in the 60s, you could have clearly said who our national leadership was. Today, you cannot. And so a lot of discussion and dialogue and collaboration that could be happening is not possible, because we haven't Pan-Africanized our own black politics within the United States of America yet.
I agree. It's interesting you touched on that, which was so clear, and it's actually where we are at. It's a whole lot rely upon those of us who are on these shows over here, like you say, a lot of us. And so as we build, we gotta build here, like you said. And that's one of the things that Delaney was talking about. He was talking about when he said that we are a nation within a nation. Martin Delaney understood that nations recognize nations dealt with nations. So even those black nations, when they want to reach out and deal with us, you're correct. It's no point of contact because confusion have taken over, right? We're more viewed from a confused point of view rather than a clear point of view, and that's the reason why I started pushing the Race First initiative 5 years ago. That's why I started that. You know, if they would have been following what I was saying and listening to me, you know, I was trying to create something that could generate the dialogue that can become a bridge to bring us together. So the Race First rallies was only strategically put in place to get us to the National Race First Convention. That's what it's all about. And so if people have been paying attention, because we got to be organized. And so I was trying to lay out a strategic plan to get us to a place, a convention, because we've always created conventions as a people. If we do the history, we've always had conventions because they was necessary to this process that we call organizing. Historically, we've done it. Marcus Garvey understood that. You know what I'm saying? That's why he initiated the conventions. It's very important to create conventions.
Garvey actually learned the convention system from us.
That's right.
Because in the 1830s, during the antebellum period, even when we were still chattelily enslaved, the free blacks, especially in Baltimore, which had the largest number of free blacks,
that's right.
By 1860, they was already organizing national Negro conventions since the 1830s that Martin Delany was a part of, and all the other revolutionary brothers and sisters back then, the pioneers. So Garvey came into an environment that was conducive to his ideals.
That's right.
We was already there getting it popping. We already had a black first, separate, you know what I'm saying, do our own thing mentality. And that was perfect for the ideals that he had formatted through his travels and through his studies. So we got to understand that a lot of times we like to highlight the personality. And we forget that Garvey was an individual who sparked and led a movement that led to millions and millions of people participating in that movement. And we only focus on Garvey and we disregard the agency of the people. The masses of people made it all possible.
I'm glad you said that, my brother. I am glad you said that. So yes, I have a book that I'm working on. It'll be out this year by December. It's called Scientific Pan-Africanism. And what I do in that book, what I do inside that book is I go through and lay out a term that I got from Dr. John Henry Clarke. I read this essay that Dr. Clarke wrote. I read the essay probably about 20 years ago, and he used a term in the essay, and the essay was called Pan-African Antecedents. Pan-African Antecedents, and that title, it stuck with me. So in the book, Scientific Pan-Africanism, I have a part in there that's called Pan-African Antecedents, because I understood what he was trying to do, what he was trying to lay out. He was trying to lay out exactly what you just elaborated, that there were black people who was already demonstrating this type of thinking here in the United States of America before the emergence of the term Pan-Africanism.
Oh, yes.
It was already a lot of people, right? And like you say, coming from Baltimore, 1830, Hezekiah Price. Hezekiah Price is the man who contacted, you know what I'm saying, Richard Allen about doing that first convention in 1830 in Philadelphia. That came out of Baltimore. So,
see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so those conventions are important. So what I'm trying to do with the National Race First Convention is to come in that same tradition. It's nothing new. I'm coming in the tradition because what had worked can work. If we understand.
Absolutely.
See, what had worked can work. And that's what this is about. So we get to this convention, we can lay out, you know what I'm saying, how we need to organize, what the principles need to be, the things that we can agree upon, and then we ratify. Because that's what they did in those conventions. We figure out what we can all agree upon, and then that's what we ratify. And we stick to it. We agree upon it, we ratify it, we stick to it, and then we take our unique lanes and we wrap our lanes into what we have ratified. That's how we get on the same page.
Absolutely.
So that's the work that I'm trying to do.
Absolutely. Well, brother, listen, you're not trying to do it, man. You're doing it. You know, and you know, for what it's worth, man, I'm telling you, continue to do it. You know, it's always gonna be challenges, but at this point, we need the right leadership. We need people that's truly devoted, that has demonstrated to us that they're committed to the people, to the race. You've done the work. Like you said, you got another masterpiece coming right now. So it's like what you've been doing has been effective. People are listening. And the natural way to take it from rallies and gathering the people, you gather them for what point? To empower them. You want to bring them to a democratic process where their voices can be heard. And we, the leadership, the people who stepping forward to put our necks out there in the first place, you know, we have opportunity to build dialogue with the masses of people. This is what made the UNIA so powerful. The Black Panther Party also had a policy for dialoguing with the people and developing policy based on, you know, consensus. Yeah, that's a democratic. Anytime we're talking about community organizing, we're talking about based on consensus building. We have our own participatory democratic principles. Our people have been doing this since 200 years, 200 plus years. Even when we talk about reparation, repatriation, we act as if that only came a question in the 1920s when Marcus Garvey was around. When in reality, I live in Freetown, Sierra Leone, and this is the first settlement of Africans from the United States of America on the African continent in history. We came back here in 1792 and founded Freetown. And then Liberia happened 30 years later. You understand? So it's a whole policy and a whole process. We talked about Martin Delany just now. Martin Delany was a forerunner in the repatriation movement, as well as Paul Kufi, as well as others, many others. But the thing is that aspect and that element has always been there as well. We often think that because what happened in the 20th century was something new, but it wasn't. Before there was a Black Liberation Army in the 20th century, in the 1960s, you had Black militias all over the South and all over the country in the 1860s. So it's like we going through a cycle. We're going through a cycle, and what you're putting on the table is a pathway towards political sovereignty, political self-determination. We need that. And real quick, when I talked to the ambassador of Mali, he explained to me something that I thought was very, very critical, and I wanted to bring it up in this conversation with you because I know you would get it. He said that originally, those three countries that make up the Sahel Alliance, they were fighting against terrorism that they didn't have to worry about until Gaddafi got killed. When Gaddafi got killed, the same people that had been fighting them went up and took them weapons and brought them down south of the Sahara and start bombing on the northern parts of their countries. And so that was their beef with the French. That the French was there acting like they was their allies, helping them fight this terrorism, but behind the scenes they were financing the terrorists so they can take the resources for cheap.
Yes.
So they peaked the setup and was like, no, man, we got to do something militarily. So when they took the power, they still didn't form an alliance yet. What made them form the alliance was that the ECOWAS, the current Pan-African Regional Union in the region, decided that they was going to attack these newly free, liberated countries. And they was like, nah, we're going to form an alliance based on three things: defense, development, and diplomacy. So it don't matter what of the three countries you're dealing with, that's what the Sahel Alliance is based on right now. And then they're taking it from an alliance into a confederation, but their ultimate goal is to have a federation. So they plan to make these three countries into three states of a single country. And they're blocking the media so we don't get this political understanding of what them brothers and sisters is doing over there. But that is the same process that we're in. We need to find the basis where we can unite no matter where we are as a people. And we got to lay it out there. What are the areas where we need to develop? Defense is real. We need a defense committee. We need to have task force that's dealing with defending our people's rights. Of course, development. Very, very important, man. We can't feed ourselves and we can't, control our economics. We shouldn't really be talking too heavy, And then you got diplomacy. Diplomacy is big too. Goes back to what I was saying earlier. When these African countries want to sit down with us and talk, we don't got no state power. So that's where the conventions come in. The conventions come in saying that we have a clearly democratic, involved process that takes at least delegates from around the country and around the community and bring them to a single point to have these conversations, to develop these policies, to develop these positions, like you say, and make sure that we have that line of communication. There's a lot of opportunities for us, the Pan-Africanists in the diaspora, to reconnect through the struggle that's happening right now in the Sahel. Very, very important. Very, very important.
Yeah, I agree, and it's interesting what you said about the democratic process, because also in the book Scientific Pan-Africanism, there's a part in there that's called People's Democracy. It's called People's Democracy, and I clarify up front that by democracy, in no ways am I speaking about what Europeans define as being democracy.
Right.
And then I lay out two systems that we have used before as a people in terms of how we have worked around consensus. And we can get back there when we focus on, like I say, raising consciousness and cleaning up our characters. Because those systems work when people are invested in those systems in the sense that we prioritize what's best for all of us. When we can prioritize what's best for all of us, then those things work best. So yeah, it's most definitely it's going to be a struggle, to get from where some of us thinking that to there, but it's actually doable. But there's a comment that I want to put up because I want you to address this comment right here, if you don't mind.
All right. The greatest challenge today is trying to mass organize under a global capitalist system. This is not 1865, 1925, 1965. The social conditions are drastically different. We don't get it. I agree. I mean, we got to develop new strategies and new tactics. But at the same time, there's fundamentals of power building. There's fundamentals of nation building. And we can't think that we need to change every wheel. It's like you driving down the car and you driving down the street in the vehicle and one of your tires busts. Boom. You're not going to change every tire on the car. You're going to change that tire, right? And so that's one of the things that these conventions will allow us to do. I'm a member of the UNIA. We still have annual conventions. They're small, but they serve the same purpose, is to make sure that we're moving as a government, that we're moving in a capacity that everybody is involved. You understand? So I think you're correct. I think we've been operating under a global capitalist system for at least the last century. That's not new. But our response to how we are going to liberate ourselves from that system, I think some things are pretty cut and dry. We still have to be organized. We still got to do the community canvassing. We still got to do the surveying. We still got to put on the rallies. We still got to have the conventions. We still got to get out in the streets and do the hard work. No matter how we do it, that still has to happen. And without that, we won't have any mass organization. So I think that some of the things that we did in 1865, we should revisit. Some of the things we did in 1825, we should revisit. 1965, we should revisit. We should revisit the best of what we've already done historically and see how best we can adapt it to modern circumstances, because technology actually operates in our favor, all the way down to the raw minerals. When Africa is free, the whole world will be free from this capitalism. So you got to understand that it's the raw resources and that slave labor that they taken from the continent that even make it possible for me and you to have this conversation. So even though it's being taken from us, it's still creating a flat, a more level playing field for us. We can use this to our advantage. And so, that's what I would say to that comment. We still got to do the basic organizing. Don't think that we don't have to do what the ancestors and the elders had to do just 50, 60 years ago. We got to keep that tradition. And like I said, brother, on your post, now is the opportune time to intensify the struggle. It's not time to reinvent the struggle. It's time to intensify it, to keep fighting the way we have been, but doing it a little more. You know what I'm saying? Like hit a little harder. And so, yeah, man, that's what I would say to that for sure.
Yes, I agree. I like to use the terminology like what you was just saying. We have to do the preliminary work. Like those things are prerequisites to liberation. There is no liberation. There is no upliftment. There is no advancement without the preliminary work. And I think what have happened in my assessment, because I've been in this thing for the last 30 years. I know oftentimes people might see me, I got a small statue, I may look young, but no, I started organizing in 1992. You know what I'm saying? I've been doing it ever since then. And I've been able to look and think and read and reflect, look, think, read, and reflect. And I've been working the entire time. And what I've noticed is that we don't do what a lot. I'm not gonna say we in a blanket statement. Many of us no longer do what we once done to be successful. We've gotten away from that. And like you say, And like you say, see, like God, I tell people all the time, I say, if you really study Garvey, and if you have studied the 1800s, it's no way you can't conclude that he was a student of the 1800s.
Absolutely.
It's no way you can't conclude that. And that's what made him so effective, because he understood, he took from the 1800s what he saw working, and he made it work in the time period that he fell in. You know what I'm saying? So in that early teens, that's what that is. And we could do the same thing, right? We could do the same thing. So yes, we gotta get out in the communities and canvas our communities. We gotta know who in our community, what's going on, what they think, what they're feeling. We got to do these things. We gotta meet. I don't understand why we think we can get work done without meeting.
Yeah,
and
man.
and oftentimes we tend to equate wrongly. We equate meetings as if it's like the meetings you have on your job. And I keep telling people, these are two different types of meetings. So don't equate it that way, because y'all know you dislike and detest going to meetings with your boss and your supervisor. And oftentimes we think it's the same thing. You know, and I try to get people to know, like, no, we're doing two different things. We need to meet so we can discuss and iron out things and lay things out and get to resolutions on how we're going to move and organize. The organizing is going to come out of the meetings when we have the proper consciousness inside those meetings. The proper consciousness is there. We're going to get a whole lot done. You know, so yeah, I agree with everything you said.
Absolutely. I think that, like you were saying, the character development that comes from being involved in the struggle, you know, it has a redemptive aspect. Even if we take the life and example of Brother Malcolm, right? We can look and see how just being involved in the solution gave that brother, you know, the moral strength to avoid and clean his character up and become a servant of the people. That's what we need from these young bucks right now. That's what we need from these young brothers and sisters right now. We need them to see that the only way forward to a life that we really can have a say about is if we take control right now. And we talking about what we're doing now is designed to affect the next 10 generations. So when we talk about meetings, like you said, you know, it's a general meeting fatigue in our movement. And I kind of understand it, man, because there's so many people out there pitching different ideals to the masses. And they probably like, man, I'm tired of just running through these different groups and being disappointed at the end. I got so many experiences myself that I can understand how someone who maybe not have the same level of consciousness commitment would be turned off, or at least, you know, fall back from the movement because of all of the razzle dazzle inside, all of the preconceived drama and unnecessary stuff. So that gets cleaned up during the meetings, because that's where discipline and accountability is taught. That's where training happens. That's where ranks are established, and that's where respect and love is cultivated. And one thing that our revolutionary leaders of the past was able to cultivate, regardless of what movement you're talking about, was genuine love for each other. When you look at the Black Panther Party, for the most part, they had genuine love for each other as comrades. And that's what the federal government was afraid of. That genuine love they had individually among themselves to do the work that they felt as though was needed for the nation. And so, you know, it still turns around to a little, you might think it's corny, but you know, we gotta love ourselves. And the meetings is very, very critical for that. There's no way for us to fight a struggle, because that's what this is. It's not just like we're gonna vote somebody in power and then our struggle gonna be over. We're gonna make a certain amount of money and then our struggle gonna be over. Our struggle never gonna be over. We gotta get equipped and fit for that. Train our babies to also maintain in the struggle, because chances is it's gonna be there for several more generations before we get to a point where we really feel like we've accomplished what it is we set out to do. So, you know, man, yeah, you know, the meetings, we're doing a program right now called the Mosiah Academy Leadership Institute. My organization, the Black Star Action Network International, is doing that. And it's similar to what you did with Race First, how you took a general concept within the movement, but you grabbed it as a leader in the movement, redefined it, and then start showing us what it could be today. We did the same thing when we chose the name Black Star, So we chose Black Star Action Network International, meaning we wanted to create an international network of Pan-Africanists who's already doing the work to operate more like a cadre, you understand, than a mass movement. But we're actively involved on different levels and in different locations. And so that was the ideal of it. You understand? So right now, we're ready to institutionalize our training program. And so we're creating something called the Mosiah Academy Leadership Institute. Market Mosiah Garvey for us is the highest expression or greatest expression of the type of leadership that we need today. We appreciate them all. We love them all. But right now, Garvey, I believe, is so relevant to where we need to take our nationalism at right now, where the Pan-Africanism, even on the continent, needs to go. The Pan-Africanism here on the continent needs to be more African-centered, so to speak. A lot of the Pan-Africanism on the continent has gone left into socialism, into a real gray area. But when you talk about Black nationalism, you know, proud Africanism, like I said, I see it in the Sahel. I see them, they're going through a cultural renaissance right now. All their traditions are being restored. They have festivals every month of the year right now. And the festivals is designed to strengthen and reinforce ancient relationships between clans and ethnic groups and kingdoms and all that. So they're going through a whole cultural revolution that's designed to make them tighter as a people. But outside of that, I do not see it on the continent. I believe that the Mali, Songhai, and Niger alliance is the highest expression of political Pan-Africanism that we can point to right now at this moment in this time in the world, from having the conversations that I've been having with people. And so it's very important that we begin to teach a curriculum that will get more of us to the same level of consciousness, like you're saying, through education. The consciousness is so critical, man. Consciousness can be created, but we need to materialize our consciousness through application. That's right. That's where the organization comes in. I can't materialize my consciousness by myself. I need you. I need a little team. We gotta work together to materialize the kind of consciousness that I got, because it's a collective consciousness. I can't do it by myself. And when people understand that, I think we'll show up to the meetings earlier. We'll show up to the meetings on time with pen and paper, you know, ready to learn and ready to teach. As they say, we all got something to contribute. And so, yeah, man, you know, we're building this program. It's going to be a 12-month program. It'll take like a new fish, somebody who never had any true experience with Pan-Africanism, to a process that by the time the year is over, man, they will have at least, I would say, a operational level of Pan-African political consciousness, along with some historical knowledge and the ability also to understand what leadership is and what it means to be a leader in the community. So we do have a community outreach and service component of our training. It's very, very necessary. For myself, I got involved with community organizing in 1999. Messing with my mom, she got me involved in the community organization, and I experienced the power of change. I was like, man, so people really meet and plan things out, and then that's how that stuff be happening. I used to see things happen, but not know that behind the scenes, there's people really sacrificing time, money, their intelligence, pooling their resources, you know, to make the community better. And so I just fell in love with that off rip. And I think that community organizing is what is going to redeem us, particularly in the United States of America. We've become too dependent on social media for our information, for our organizations, for our promotions. Back in 1999, when I got involved, everything was manual. You had to go knock on the door. You had to go in the barbershop. You had to hand out flyers. You had to hang up propaganda. You had to have the bullhorn, all that. You had to be visible in the community, putting in the work, or you wasn't really doing nothing. But now it's like they think that's old school. But that's fundamental. Like you said, it's fundamental. This is the fundamental things that will change our situation. When the Democrats and Republicans want our vote, what do? They canvass our communities.
That's
They,
right.
they disseminate their propaganda. They lay out their agendas. We got to do that same work.
That's right. And they do it because it works.
That's right.
They do it because it works, you know. So, and that's the position that I've been taking, just trying to get us to understand that. And I think a lot of times with the terminologies and the words that people use, part of what we are moving against is the ability to be free in how we think.
Right.
And what I mean by that is to own our language, even if, because oftentimes we get into all this stuff, but you don't own it, you speak in their tongue, right? Even the fact that I was born and raised in this land and I don't speak what they speak in England, I speak, you know what I'm saying, what developed for us here in this land, you know,
Right.
and we got to understand that, you know what I'm saying? We have our variant and it works for us. And we have to be able to control that and own that, you know what I'm saying? So the lexicon is very important. And I tell people that all the time, it's like, so people might hear me using these terms and they think I'm using a term from the traditional angle when I'm not.
Yeah.
You know, I'm beyond those people. You know what I'm saying?
You upgraded.
Yeah, I've upgraded. So, and you got to pay attention to me to know that. You got to be listening, paying attention. You'll know. I may use this term, but I'm not using how they use it. So you got to be very clear about what I'm saying. And when I'm keep putting the emphasis on consciousness, because I know that consciousness is what dictates movement. It's consciousness.
Absolutely.
Consciousness dictates movement. Consciousness precedes gatherings. It precedes unity. It precedes organization. Consciousness precedes all of that. You know.
Absolutely.
So when I try to get people to understand that we have to building consciousness has to be a focus. But I'm not saying we build consciousness to the degree where as though I still don't do my work and what I got to do. No, I'm still going to do what I got to do. But I know that building consciousness is also part of that work. So I got to be able to engage people. I can't say, you know, well, don't nobody want to hear this. So because don't nobody want to hear it, I don't engage anybody. Pessimism have never led to liberation in any point in human history.
Ever.
You can never find a people in human history that have ever lifted themselves up and they was pessimistic. Yeah. So pessimism, you know what I'm saying, is an anti-revolutionary feeling and attitude.
Yeah, sentiment. It's sentimental shit.
That's right.
Excuse my language, man, but yeah, it's emotionalism. Yeah. It's emotionalism.
Can't have it involved, you know. But I would say this though. Listen to the things that you were saying. My book, the book that I'm laying out, would be really great because it's designed to do exactly what you just were speaking about. The basis of the book, because I'm not writing a history of Pan-Africanism. I'm writing a clarification of Pan-Africanism. It's a different type of book because I know that many people have not truly understood Pan-Africanism and they are in those gray areas. They're in those gray areas. They think that Pan-Africanism got to pull on all these other ideologies. We pulling these European stuff in here. We trying to blend it all together. So this book clarifies that, no, that's not what Pan-Africanism is. So the book is a clarification of Pan-Africanism, and it lays out the fundamental basis of what it is and how it should be looking. And I tell people all the time, by definition, if we understand the term, by definition, you can't be Pan-Africanist in the truest sense and not be African-centered and nationalistic, right?
Absolutely.
Right? Those two features are naturally built into what it means to be Pan-Africanist. So if you truly understand Pan-Africanism, by definition, you're African-centered and you're nationalistic. So it's a nationalism that's built into it by definition. And I'm trying to get people to understand that. And when they understand it that way, and also contended to that, Pan-Africanism also is a revolutionary ideology. You know what I'm saying? So people, these things are naturally built into the understanding behind the very basis of the concept of Pan-Africanism. And this is what I clarify in the book.
It's very necessary because Pan-Africanism has always been philosophy and an ideal under assault. And just over the last, I'll say, 20 years, given the power and influence of social media and internet, Pan-Africanism has been contending with all kind of new ideals, and it's like, man, we gotta clear ourselves. Do we have to clarify ourselves? And so the work that you're doing to clarify ourselves, that's not just you clarifying your ideals. You speaking for a lot of us. You speaking for a lot of us. A lot of us feel it, but don't go through the full process of understanding it. And so, laying it out like that is very important. Putting it in book form also is very important, because when we read, it's different than watching the video. Yes. When we read, it's different than hearing somebody say it to you. Just taking in the information differently when you read it. Even if you take notes on your phone with your thumb versus writing it out with pen and paper, it's a different sensory thing going on there. You're getting the information differently when you're writing it and when you're pushing a button.
Yes.
And so, it all needs to be upgraded. It all needs to be upgraded. I commend you for the various levels that you can see this on. It's not just a matter of convincing people that you're right. It's about generating the consciousness that can lead them into a better world for our people. It's not just about being correct or being incorrect. Setting the record straight. And like I said, man, over the last 10, 15 years, it's been like an all-out assault against the Pan-African philosophy, against the African-centered consciousness, against the African identity and nationality, even here on the continent. And it's intensifying. This is why I said we must intensify the struggle, because we're the ones living right now that have the understanding that we need to make some moves. And so really the greatest responsibility and burden is on us to know it's on you now. You can't unknow it now. And so it's a very serious struggle we're involved in. And to continue to break it down for the people who don't have the understanding is critical. They say the primary responsibility of the conscious is to awaken the unconscious. The primary role of the conscious, if you consider yourself conscious, then show me what you're doing to awaken the unconscious. And then I know for a fact that you're conscious, because it's the natural thing. For you to have consciousness and then keep it to yourself, that's foolish. You ain't really too conscious if you keep it to yourself.
That's true and exact. This is my position on that. I measure consciousness against actions.
Yeah,
so
conduct.
The degree to which you are conscious will be determined by the degree of how you act. Right? That's it. So I say consciousness in my book, in the first book that I wrote, Urban Philosophy, Thought and Behavior System, I say consciousness is motion. Consciousness is motion, right? See, and now, because I want to be very clear, I'm using consciousness beyond the simple definition of just saying you are aware. So I'm going beyond to just be aware. So I'm moving consciousness to an action. So for me, consciousness is something it's active awareness rather than just the general sense in the dictionary when they say to be aware. And a lot of us understand it that way. So that's why they miss me when I say the things that I'm saying. No, for me, I'm taking consciousness beyond just aware. For me, consciousness is how you be. So if you understand a thing, then you need to act in accordance to that. Oh, yeah. If you know who the enemy is, then your actions should demonstrate you know who the enemy is. If you understand that, people are suffering and you say you clear about the suffering, and you therefore usually act in a way that relieve the suffering. If you tell me you clear if you are aware of or conscious of these people suffering, and then I don't see no behaviors coming from you that's designed to relieve their suffering, then in my book, you're not conscious. You know what I'm saying?
Conscious,
You're just talking. You're just talking.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hear you talking. I can appreciate a talker that's consistent with actions. Because I go back to, who we were as a people. See, for us, there's no demarcation between thought, speech, and behavior. For us, you don't demarcate them. as I think, I speak, and I do. It's simple as that.
Yeah.
As I think, I speak, and I do. So if I see you act in a certain way, then I'm clear about how you think. If you behave a way that's counterproductive to us, then I already know how you think. And I know what you would say because your behavior have already told me that.
Absolutely.
So consciousness is motion. And I'll tell people that all the time. I say, you can take a person, literally a person that's true to this work. And if you put the time into it, you can literally walk back in time and see this person doing this work in time.
Yeah.
If the person is true, you know what I'm saying? So you can do that. The true people, you can find them from the moment that they came into their consciousness up until this particular moment. You can find genuine people always at work. You'll find genuine people at work at any moment. You know, like I'm 53, right? So a person can say, well, what was he doing at 43? Well, look me up. You will see. Well, damn, he was doing the same thing at 43. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? They said, well, what was he doing at 33? Look me up. You know what I'm saying? You'll see me doing the same thing at 33. You know what I'm saying? Now, even at 23, you'll see me in the beginning stages trying to figure this thing out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
Then maybe at 13, you'll see me running wild and acting crazy. But at 23, you'll see me figuring this thing out. At 33, I'm at work. At 43, I'm at work. At 53, I'm at work. At 63, I'm at work. Because I tell people all the time, it's very important to understand history because history do three things among many other things. But the three things I like to highlight about history is this right here. History informs the past, clarifies the present, and it illuminates the future. It illuminates the future. It does those three things among many other things, but it informs the past. So the better you understand history, you have a great grasp of what have occurred. And because you have a good grasp on what have occurred, you're clear about what's happening now. Right? And the clear you are about what's happening now allows you to project into the future as to what it's going to be. So that's why I can say today in a very definitive way, at 63, this is what I'll be doing. At 73, this is what I'll be doing. Because I'm clear about the history that I come from.
That's interesting, man, because that's why Fred Hampton Sr. said he know he gonna die a revolutionary. He didn't know. He said, it's not gonna be on a plane. He ain't gonna slip and fall and break his neck. Nope, he gonna die on the revolution, doing the revolutionary work. Because no matter what, once you had that commitment, and that brings me back to this brother. Before I came out here, man, he was very active on social media. A brother from Atlanta. Maybe you ran across the brother. His name was RBG Street Scholar, and he was always putting together lessons and holding classes. One time I was in Atlanta, man, opportunity to sit through some of his classes at the UNIA Center down there with Brother Ross Marvin, and that's what he was teaching: the 3 C's: consciousness, commitment, and conduct. Consciousness, commitment, and conduct. All three of these are measurable. All three of these, you can observe it from the outside and determine how to rank someone and put them on a certain level. Your consciousness, your commitment, and your conduct should always be aligned. And you said something very important just now in terms of how you can go back through the decades and pinpoint a person. Like I don't remember a time after like 21, 22 years old that I wasn't waking up every day on it. Movement, reading books, studying, having conversations. Long before I even stepped out in the community trying to make any change, it was about transforming myself. It was about getting the information that I need to really do that respectfully, not just go out in the community like a nut with a few books of knowledge in my head, you know what I mean, without knowing how to do anything, but really studying and understanding what it takes to become the revolutionary. What does it take to become the nation builder? What does it take to become the leader? What does it take for us to be men and be warriors? And that does have to be defined for us. After you understand the kind of attack that has been made against the Black community, and particularly Black manhood, you have to say, we need to rehabilitate Black manhood. We need to redefine Black men. We need to revisit what it means for us to be men.
It's interesting you say that because I arrived at that same conclusion years ago. So I wrote a book. It's called African Manhood in the 21st Century, because I realized that, yes, so I agree with you. It needed to be redefined, rehabilitated, because we was all over the place. Some people was on the tap, they didn't know what to do. So I wrote the book. I said, I'm gonna write this book, African Manhood in the 21st Century. And the way I wrote the book, I wrote it in a way where I'm just laying out like principles, laws, and rules, things that we should be following, that if we are following those things, it's going to tighten up the character. Because that's my emphasis. My emphasis, man, you can go back and find me talking on lectures, man, 10, 15 years ago. I'm pushing character. A person can't tell you that a person can't say they spend any significant amount of time around me and not hear me talk about the importance of good character. They will be telling a lie. They will be telling a lie. I am forever pushing the idea that as Black men, we need stellar character. We need stellar character, man. Because the reason, to a great extent, man, we jacked up in our organizations because the character is messed up, man. People got poor characters. They lying, they stealing, they don't have integrity, their morality is shot, their conscience is shot. They're talking one thing and doing something else. They talking about their initial relationship and they being disloyal to this person, man. And that stuff is destroying us. So I would never back up off of pushing and advocating for good character. We need
absolutely. We need it all the time. All the time we need it. And we're suffering from that. I remember when I was younger. You say you're 53. I'm 45. We're in the same little decade, right?
Yeah.
But I just remember the character of the older men in my community back in the 80s, before crack really hit.
That's right.
And even shortly after that whole decade, the 90s, you seen the last of a real thoroughbred breed of Black men that was fully understanding what was going on around them and was being attacked systematically by the government on all levels. And so just to see how they was real with each other. It wasn't about snitching each other and messing with each other's kids or messing with each other's women and all that stuff. They was really trying to maintain a certain principle. But you see also that it's a cultural thing, brother. When the dominant culture of white supremacy is what we're being raised under, when that's what we're getting our values from and our principles from, that's where the cultural revolution comes in. And I don't mean in the armchair sense. I mean actively instilling in young people the values of Africa and African culture from day one, from the time where they come out the womb, even while they're in the womb, play drums to them, just to keep the vibe, the spirit properly being cultivated. Here in Africa, what I've learned to appreciate from the traditional setting is that every community here has a distinct culture, and within every culture, they all have a systematic way to determine what a man is and what a woman is within that particular culture, right? And so even though they share a country, they have one nationality, there's like 17 different ethnic groups in this one African country. And every ethnic group has a way to say, okay, by the time this boy hits puberty, he need to know this, he need to know that, know this, know that, about his own history, about his own tradition, about his own family and his own people's way of building homes and rearing children, and the kind of man he has to be to have a good wife. All that information is already instilled systematically from the elders to the children directly. The older group trains the younger group naturally. And I believe that our social structure, our cultural system has been so attacked that that's why we can't feel each other the way we're supposed to feel each other, man. And this internet and this distraction, keeping us distracted from what really we should be working on. It just makes it all worse, man. It compounds the situation, for sure.
Yes, I appreciate that. So what I want to do now, because usually I conclude at 10 o'clock, but I saw we got a few questions, so I'm going to highlight a few questions, and we just take a shot at a few of these questions. So I think he says he's new to the channel. Let me see. Okay, I say we all need to be deprogrammed.
Yeah.
How about this one right here? Will you want to answer this one?
What if the enemy is within your own?
Yeah.
What you mean, like your own?
I think he's saying within you. What if the enemy is in you?
Oh well, shit. Well, you know what you gotta do. You gotta change your ways, man. You gotta get that up out of you, man. I think that we all got some contradictions. I'll say that it's impossible to live in a society and not be influenced, impacted by that society. So there's a lot of enemy ways that we have, and I think that goes back to the culture. I think the way that we eradicate the enemy within is by returning to our cultural norms and revolutionizing it for our times. When you see the work of Marimba Ani, you see the work of our great philosophers, people who actually laid out, you know, what kind of cultural dynamic we're living in. We talk about African-centered worldview, and we're contending against what? A Eurocentric worldview. We have to understand what it is that we've been brainwashed under too. And so there's a lot of enemy ways that we have to challenge. We have to recognize within ourselves as individuals. And just to finish my answer to that question is that it's a collective process. You can sit by yourself every day in your house and try to rid yourself of all of that, but it's a collective process that involves discipline and accountability on a collective level. So this is why I was saying about here, they have a system in place that, you know, it grooms you up to be a certain kind of way. It helps to rid or prevent a person from developing certain characteristics in the first place. We don't have that. We don't have that right now. Even our traditional institutions, the church, the mosque, the religious institutions that would try to give us some character, try to give us some manners, morals, and respect. Even they're failing. Even they're failing us today. And so it's a collective thing. The organizations and the movement has to address that particular question. But yeah, it's a collective thing. Even then, you have to recognize. Sometimes, brother, you can see my contradiction that I can't see, and that's where you said character come into play. Because if I got an ego and I don't think I can be corrected, and you see something in me that is off, that can make me a better person if I address it, but my ego too big, I can't accept correction, then that right there even is something that's put in us by the enemy.
Yeah.
One thing our people understand is discipline. Discipline is something that we shouldn't be afraid of, especially self-discipline. Self-discipline. The enemy don't want us to be in control of our thoughts and our behavior.
Yes, I agree. And so to the point that Bubba also wanted to know, like in the race. So to the question as to what do we do if there's an enemy in a race? At this stage right here, for the sake of this particular conversation, we would say that we are trying to organize and align ourselves with like-minded people or people who are receptive to where we're trying to go. You know, in all forms of warfare, you have enemies and you know what to do with an enemy. So that question right there answers itself, you know, to that effect. But like I say, for the sake of this conversation, we're going to ensure that people that's building with us and aligning with us are actually for us. If you're not for us, we're going to have so many layers of the screening setup, you're not going to get in. Right? One of the things that I always argued is that we need to always make sure people got a resume, right? And I use resume loosely in this sense, but we need to be able to say, well, who know you? What have you done? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on with you, right? And if people can't show up that kind of way, then we gradually let them go off to the wayside. You know what I'm saying? So that's how we deal with them. We keep suspicious people from out of the organization. They don't get. They're not. You know, we're gonna keep you out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're gonna keep you out.
I think you're correct with vetting. We have to vet. We have to have a system that a security system within our organizations. We should be able to have a level of transparency that ain't nobody hiding. It's almost like in prison, right? When you go to prison, everybody can get your paperwork, so you ain't gonna hide. You can't hide. You can't say you ain't rat. It's right there in the paperwork. You can't say you ain't rape. It's right there in the paperwork. Like, bring the paper. Show your hand. Mm-hmm. And so especially in militant revolutionary organizations and Pan-African organizations, we have to have a process through which everybody goes through in order to secure the ranks. That has to happen. You don't see any serious organizations that don't check people in at the door and make sure that they're not going to be a threat. When we find them, then we'll know how to deal with them to the extent to which we find them as a threat. Sometimes our people aren't the enemy. Sometimes our people are doing the work of the enemy, but they're confused and being controlled by the enemy and don't know it. You understand? You ever see the movie Belly?
Yeah.
All right. You remember when the police, the pig, put DMX to go kill the minister?
Yes.
And the minister was able to stop him in his tracks and just give him the game and help him see what he was about to do. And he was like, man, I can't do this. He ended up hugging the minister and joining the nation. Mm-hmm. So it's a thing. Even back in the days, I remember reading about Malcolm saying that too. There would be people who would come into the nation with bad intentions, but the program was so strong, and the way that they would have their discipline intact, that even if you're agent, you still they're gonna weed you out along the process. Along the process, you're gonna be identified, and then they're not gonna play with you. They're gonna weed you out. It don't mean you're gonna get beat up. It don't mean no harm will happen to you, but you're not gonna be among the made men. It just ain't gonna happen.
That's right. True to that. True to that. So I think we touched on all the questions. I enjoyed this, man. Hopefully we can, do this again, real soon.
So,
I think it was wonderful. I think it was great for the people. Man, it's a pleasure. And I don't know if people really heard when you first said it early on. I know, like right now, you're on the continent, so, and I'm in the United States of America, and we're having this fruitful conversation, and this is a gesture of us making that connection. So this is a gesture that our people need to understand that, like this isn't a show, you know what I'm saying? Like you came on here and you was straight raw yourself, and I'm straight raw myself. We're not showing up. Like we came on here to have a conversation genuinely from the bottom of our heart, because we love our people and the work that we do. That's what this was all about. Any last words?
Yeah, man. I just wanted to appreciate you, brother, for the invite. And you're right, man. We got to do this more. Just in general, we got to share these platforms and have more conversations, as much as we can have for the people. It's some things we got to have in person. Some things we got to have behind closed doors. No cell phones, no mirrors. You know what I mean? No windows. Yeah. Some things we got to go to the bush with. But for now, we really need to intensify the struggle, brother. And this is one of the ways we can do it, by having these conversations. Like you said earlier when we first spoke, to demonstrate the unity, let people out there know that there is a united group of us out here that may not be uniform, might not be in one organization or one location, nothing like that, but that consciousness is generated, and that the goal is to bring everything together. I think it just strengthens the fight towards national unity, the fight towards the national convention. So I would just say, hey, y'all, stay tuned, stay in contact, keep following our brother Baba Imhotep and the Race First movement. Get involved, get very, very actively involved. Get your children involved, get your girlfriend involved, get your young boy involved. We have to be the ones to change our own circumstances. And the only way we can do it is if we get organized right now. So I appreciate you, brother. I really, really appreciate you extending the platform. And we got to do this again. I got to get you on the platform myself too, man. We're going to keep chopping it up.
There's no doubt. So I'm going to close out, but I want you to stay on for a few minutes after I close out. I got a little traditional way I close out. Then I want to still holler at you for a few. So as always, my people, BB Foday and Race First. Once again, man, we had a vibing, live, and dynamic show here at the School of Urban Philosophy. As always, we are straight up, straightforward, and straight to the point. BB Foday and Race First.